Okay, I think it finally slowed down a little bit in terms of people requesting to join the room. So I'll start right now. I'll keep admitting people as they come, but yeah, again, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. This is kind of titled March Madness Transfer Edition because that's the time of year, March Madness. I wish I could come on this meeting after an Iowa State win yesterday, but unfortunately. We were knocked out of the tournament, but oh well, we had a good season, and next year, hopefully, when all of you guys are here, we'll have an even better season, and you'll be able to experience the Hilton Magic firsthand. So, yeah, thank you all for being here, and I will introduce myself first. A lot of you have already received emails from me, so you may know me a little bit, but my name is Kat Klingsize. I'm a transfer admissions counselor for non-resident transfer students. I work with everyone all across the U.S. Outside of the state of Iowa. And then I will hand it over to John.
Yes, thanks, Kat. Welcome everyone. Thanks you for taking some time out of your day to, log in and listen to us kind of go over some of the transfer information that you need to know as you're either making your decision on where to apply to, or if you've already applied and maybe got it down to a couple of different options. We really want to be able to give you the information that you need so that you can make the best decisions for yourselves. Like Cass said, my name is Jonathan Frank. I'm the Associate Director for Transfer Recruitment here at Iowa State University. So today, what we're going to do is go over, we'll talk about some of the agenda. We're going to be talking about application evaluations. We'll talk about financial aid, accepting your offer, housing, orientation. Now, throughout the day, we do have 5 gifts that we are going to be giving out. Actually, when we start, there's a big giant wheel that Kat will put on the screen, and it'll just be random. But one thing I will say before we do get started is that if you do have any questions, feel free. You can put them in the chat, but we will address and have those conversations after everything's done. So if you're someone like myself who you don't feel like you're going to be able to remember the question, throw it in the chat, and then Kat and I will get through those at the end of the presentation. All right. With that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. The very first thing that we kind of want to talk about is transfers as far as what is a transfer student. So there's 3 main things to think about as a transfer, as what is a transfer student. First thing is if you took classes after the summer post high school graduation. So if you graduated in the year 2024 in May and you went to another institution after that summer, then you would be considered a transfer student. This also includes anyone who pursued military service after the summer of graduation. So, once again, if you graduated in May of 2024, went into military in that fall, then you would be considered a transfer student. One thing to know, and I know this can be confusing and it's a little different at every institution, but with the number of high school students that are taking dual enrollment courses or college credits while they're in high school, it's important to note that a person who graduates from high school and then plans to come to Iowa State the upcoming fall is not a transfer student, no matter how many college credits they earned while they're in high school. So if you're a high school student, you're taking classes at your local community college, doesn't matter if you have 3 credits or if you have 30 or if you have 50 or whatever you end up with, as long as you are attending Iowa State immediately after that fall, then you would be considered a first-time freshman. Okay?
Thank you, John. I do want to say before we get on to the next slide, because the next slide is the first prize. I wanted to, the person who is the Zoom user, it looks like there's a Zoom user and someone calling in. If we end up choosing your name, please let us know and then we'll give you the gift. But right now, how we're going to do the prizes is I'm going to spin this wheel, and then if your name comes up, then you're the winner. I will check really quickly to make sure that you're on the call, but that's how it is. So if you are a Zoom user and your name is not attached to that, then let us know, and so we will make sure that you get that prize. So, all right, going back to you, John.
Awesome. No, like Cass said, we are going to start after really the first slide. We're going to get into the first prize, which is a 20-ounce tumbler. So if anyone likes their stainless steel coffee mugs or anything like that, this will be the first prize of the day. So, and we'll get started with spinning. All right. Looks like we have a winner, David May.
And he's on here, so congratulations, David.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna switch it over, and Kat will start talking about the requirements.
Yeah, so the requirements for transfer students. So some of you have already gone through the process, so you're already well aware of these, but some people are still at that applicant stage. And so I wanted to go over this really quickly. The transfer GPA requirement is at least a 2.25 or a 2.0 if you have earned an associate's degree. We also look for 24 transfer academic credits. If you do not have that, then we'll look at your high school records. Make sure you meet our high school admissibility requirements, and then also, again, that at least that 2.25 GPA. We will take up to 16 career technical credits, but we will not factor them into your transfer GPA or your credit count. So what that means is any of those like HVAC or plumbing or like diesel mechanics or anything like that, those can come over 16 of them, up to 16 of them, but they won't factor into what I just talked about above. And then what happens after you apply? So we ask, so you submit an application, you pay the application fee, or you ask to have that deferred. And after that, you must upload your transcripts into your My account or email them to etranscript@iastate.edu. We need transcripts from every college or every higher education institution that you have attended, including classes you took while in high school. We can admit you based on your unofficial transcripts, but we will need to receive official transcripts prior to classes starting. So now some of you may have already accepted your offer, so you're at the point where you may be doing orientation or planning to do orientation. That's when it's important to make sure that you have those official transcripts. And we'll talk about this later, but I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit. But we'll need those official transcripts before you register. Sometimes your advisor will require those before you register for classes, but so just keep that in mind. And then once you submit your application and send us all your transcripts, the processing time may take up to 3 weeks. Right now, we're actually getting through them a lot faster than that. So we're seeing them a turnaround time of about a week. But once we start getting into busier times, it may take a little bit longer than that. And we are already on to our second prize. So, John, I'll hand it back over.
Yes, yep. So our second prize of the night is going to be a high quality pair of Cruise socks, Iowa State logo on top. So if anyone likes their to up their sock game, or if you like to play pickup or anything like that, this is the perfect prize for you. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get the ball or get it spinning. All right. Looks like we have a winner. Casey Martinson. Is Casey here?
I do not see Casey right now. So if Casey, we'll give her a second if she's one of the people on the Zoom. If not, then we will Spin again. Okay, let's spin again.
Perfect. All right. Violet. We have Violet Carlson.
I'm not seeing Violet on here, and we'll give it a minute or a couple seconds in case she's one of the Zoom users that doesn't have a name attached. Third time's a charm.
There we go. I feel confident about this one.
I'm pretty sure I saw Ethan on here.
Ethan.
Ethan is on here. Congratulations, Ethan.
There we go. Awesome. Perfect. Well, we'll keep on going.
All right. And now we'll talk about financial aid. So some of you are already past you've been admitted. Some of you have already accepted your offer. Some of you are still kind of questioning whether or not Iowa State is in your future. And sometimes I know that financial aid is a factor in that. So wanted to go over very briefly. I will talk more about some opportunities to learn about our financial aid availability late in the next slide. But just wanted to go over some basics here. So February 25th was the priority deadline for FAFSA. You can, if you haven't submitted FAFSA and you haven't put Iowa State as a recipient, you can still do that, and you may still receive aid if you submit your application now. So the priority deadline was February 25th, but you can still submit an application. The next deadline is was March 6th. That was the deadline for a lot of our One App scholarships. You were able to apply for those scholarships after you were admitted. You can still, if you have not, if you have not applied for One App or gone on to One App yet, you can still do so and see if there's any scholarships still open. But again, I just wanted to make sure you're aware that March 6th was a deadline for a lot of them, but there may still be some open. The other thing I wanted to mention is the transfer merit awards that are offered by the Office of Admissions. These are for non-resident students based on GPA and credit count on their transcripts. There's no additional application. So those are still open. You can still receive those. We have the Transfer Achievement and Transfer Success Awards available to all non-resident domestic transfer students. Those are not stackable with one another. So you can get either or. But the Transfer Expedition Award for students in select states, that is stackable with the Transfer Achievement and Transfer Success. And this just is a more detailed explanation about that Transfer Expedition or the different Transfer Merit Awards. You'll see here that the Transfer Expedition Award is for students in Illinois, Kansas, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Wisconsin, so pretty much all our surrounding states. Again, this is all available on our website, so if you are not familiar with this, you can always look at it on our website. But these are once again offered by the Office of Admissions. There's no additional application. We will take what's on your transcripts. And with that said, also, we will adjust based on whatever is on your final transcript. So both good and bad. So if you end up getting 30 credits or at least a 3.25, you don't have that right now, we will move it up to a transfer achievement, vice versa. Hopefully this doesn't happen, but if say you do have a transfer achievement and your GPA falls below that 3.25, we may also reduce that amount. So just something to consider, making sure that you're aware that those can be adjusted. So our financial aid, I think like the next step that a lot of people are wondering about is when financial aid packages will be generated. And that we've been told is in early April. So hopefully in a couple weeks, you'll know more information about what financial aid you can anticipate getting for this upcoming year. Questions about the Office of Admissions Awards, which are the ones that we just talked about, those can be directed to the Office of Admissions. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to email or call me. Questions about One App scholarships and or FAFSA can be directed to the Office of Student Financial Aid. So they just have more information about that. The One App system and FAFSA, that all goes through the Office of Student Financial Aid versus the Office of Admissions Awards, they go through the Office of Admissions. The other thing that I kind of hinted at a couple slides ago is this paying for college webinar for transfer students. So this will be actually hosted. I'll be on it, but this will be hosted by the Office of Student Financial Aid. So this webinar, they did it last year. They're going to do it again this year. This just goes more in depth. So I kind of skimmed the surface about financial aid. Isaac over in the Office of Student Financial Aid will go more in depth, and that will be from 4 to 5 p.m. on April 16th. You should, if you haven't already, you should be getting an email inviting you to that soon. So, and here we are to our next prize.
Awesome. Yeah, we are on prize three. So we will be spinning the wheel again for a brand new hat with a retro Cyclones logo on the front. So let's get this. Let's see who we got here. Awesome. Looks like we got Rindle. Are we in the chat this evening?
Well, wait a second. I'm not seeing them in the chat right now. So we'll spin again.
All right, we'll spin again. Oh, all right. Looks like we got Weston.
I do see Weston. So Weston, congratulations.
Great hat. Awesome. Well, we'll continue. I'll talk a little bit about accepting your offer. So after you have been offered admissions to Iowa State University, the next step would be accepting your offer. The acceptance fee is $425. It's important to know that this fee goes towards prepayment on housing as well as to fund new student programs here on campus. If you do not submit a housing contract, you will get the prepayment back on your U-bill after classes have started. So if you choose to live off campus or anything, you will get that. After accepting, you will be prompt to create a net ID. This would be like your ISU email. You would use the net ID to sign in to the housing portal. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is housing. The number one question I feel like we get in the office is about is whether students are required to live on campus. The answer to that question is no. You are not required to live on campus. Transfer students can choose to live in our traditional residence halls, our suite style housing, or apartments if you are at least 19 or sophomore status, credit wise. Housing will be quite full next year. We have a big incoming class and a large number of returning students. So if you do want to live in university housing, you should submit your housing contract as soon as possible. Okay. Department of Residence staff will try to place you based on your preferences, but if you do not, if you choose to live off campus or if you are not able to live on campus because of limited beds, there is plenty of non-university owned housing options available in and around the Ames area. But with that, we are going to our fourth prize of the evening. This prize is going to be an Audie Crooks t-shirt. Audie Crooks just finished her sophomore year here at Iowa State University. She is the third fastest person in Big 12 history to reach 1,000 points, and she has been twice named to all Big 12, and she will soon be named more than likely to her second All-American listing. So great young lady. And as soon as you get on campus, if you do choose to come to Iowa State, you'll get to see her, next year with her team. So we'll go ahead and spin the wheel and see who gets an Audie t-shirt. Okay, looks like we have a winner. We have Charlie.
I'm assuming Charlie, there's a Charlie Cooper on here. And I'm wondering, I think that's probably Charlie. So I'm gonna go with that. Charlie, could you really quickly either unmute yourself or put in the chat if that's if that's you? No? Okay. I think we'll spin again. We'll spin
There you
again.
go. That's fair.
And Brandon is on here. So congratulations, Brandon.
Awesome. Congratulations,
Oh,
Brandon.
and I guess we should all say, so the this shirt is in an XL. Our the jersey is in double X. So just FYI, hopefully that will be a good size for everyone.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah, and you did your homework on the Audie Crooks stats, John.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
good job on that. Yeah. And I thought it was also funny, you when you put or when you said prompted for your net ID, you almost said promoted. And honestly, when you create a net ID, you are kind of promoted to an
Yeah.
Iowa State student. So that sentence is also true. So
Yeah.
um yeah, so the next thing we're going to talk about is orientation. So you've already accepted your offer. You're kind of looking for your next steps, and that's orientation. So all new students have to do orientation. You can choose from two different options. You can do the on-site orientation, or you can do the on-campus orientation, or excuse me, the online orientation. So the on-site is on campus, and then there's the online. On-site is a one-day event. The dates are April 11th, April 21st, May 30th, and July 2nd. The online is at your own pace. We anticipate the launch being March 31st. That's kind of the tentative deadline or start date that we've been told. Um, another thing about on-site is you will meet with an academic advisor the day that you come to campus. For online, you must complete all your modules, and then at the end, you will schedule a virtual meeting with your academic advisor. So oftentimes you'll get through all the modules, and then there's either going to be a form or your academic advisor will simply email you once they see that you've completed everything. But the process is just a little bit longer. So just bear in mind that there may be a little bit of a gap between you finishing your online orientation and when you actually will register for classes. Usually the gap's not super long, but want to make sure you are aware of that. And then you must meet with your academic advisor to register for classes. So that's an absolute must. You do have to meet with that person before you can register for classes. As you are preparing for orientation, there's only a few things you really have to keep in mind. The first is ALEKS, the ALEKS Math Placement Test. So we require all incoming students take ALEKS. The only time that you may be able to not take it is if you've already talked to an academic advisor. So that means that you really, honestly, the only time I've seen that happen is if you do not need to take any math classes at Iowa State, or you don't need any classes that could have math in it. So engineering students will have to take ALEKS no matter what. Some of the other majors, if you do not think you'll need any math, then it's a good idea to talk with your academic advisor. If you don't know who your academic advisor is at this point, you can always email me and I can put you in contact. But generally speaking, good rule of thumb, most students have to take ALEKS. The other, and I had mentioned this at the very beginning, is for official transcripts. We do have to have official transcripts. So it kind of depends on when you come for orientation. So if you come for orientation before your spring or summer classes end, we may need two copies of your official transcript. One before orientation. So that may have in progress classes on it. And then we'll need another one after those classes have finished. If you wait for a later date to do orientation, you may just have to send one. So something to keep in mind, we do have to have your official transcripts from all the different higher education institutions you've been to. And then complete all required workday tasks. So once you have been moved to student status, you will receive some emails prompting you to do some tasks on Workday, which is the system that we use for administrative things. So just keep an eye on your email that you would have just created by setting up your net ID. After orientation, the next big thing is move-in. So it kind of changes depending on if you live on campus or if you live off campus. But for on-campus students, generally speaking, it happens a week before classes. Off campus, it kind of depends on whenever your lease starts. So we'll have more information. We'll send you some more information as the time gets nearer. And then Destination Iowa State. So that's a celebratory event for new students. It happens a Thursday through Saturday before the fall semester starts. This is it's not a required event, but I definitely encourage students to go to it. Particularly, I mean, if you're not familiar with Iowa State, I think it's a great way to get better associated with the campus, and then also it's a great opportunity to meet other transfer students. So you will be grouped into smaller groups of just transfer students, and you'll have like different kind of fun activities that you do throughout the 3-day event. But it's just another way to kind of celebrate coming to Iowa State and then learning about the university and then connecting with other transfer students. It's really fun. It's probably my most memorable event when I was a student, and it's my favorite event working as a staff member is Destination Iowa State. And we have our final prize.
This is the final prize of the evening. We are going to be rolling the wheel for a Tyrese Halliburton basketball jersey. Just in case you do not know who Tyrese Halliburton is, he came to Iowa State in from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So we have any Wisconsin people in the Zoom today. He was two-time All NBA All-Star. He's the eighth Cyclone to ever win a U.S. gold medal and the first one in men's basketball. So he was picked 12th overall by the Sacramento Kings. So this is the big one here, Kat. Let's see who we got as the winner. All right. Looks like we have a winner, Thaddeus. We got Thaddeus with us.
He's gonna be kicking himself that he's not here, but
I
I do
know.
not see Thaddeus
Our
here.
coworkers that saw the jersey, they were they were trying to get in this Zoom chat so they could win.
Yeah, we're trying to keep him keep it hidden.
All right.
I'll spin again.
We'll spin him again.
Benjamin.
Benjamin.
Benjamin's here. So congratulations, Ben. This was a great prize, and yeah, we'll hopefully you'll come on campus and be able to wear this to a game.
Awesome.
So I think that brings us to the end of the presentation. So that was a lot. That was only 30 minutes. So the rest of it is honestly for you guys. If you have any questions, you can feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can just come off mute and yeah, we'll be here to answer them.
Okay.
There is no deadline. So that's a pretty common question. There's no deadline to accept your offer. So the couple things to keep in mind, I would say, would be housing. If you in particular, if you are anticipating being if you're anticipating living in university housing, the like we had mentioned on the housing slide, we are anticipating a larger class this year, as well as a lot of returning students. So I would say if you want to live on campus or in university housing, the sooner you accept your offer, the better. I don't know how much, I don't know to what date we will be able to guarantee housing for students, just with the anticipated count of students that are coming to campus. So I would say that would be the biggest thing is that if you're thinking about it, I would say sooner rather than later. Into the summer, it's going to get iffy for on-campus housing. The so yeah, that would be my recommendation. The other thing to consider is that if you accept your offer and then you decide that for whatever reason it's not going to work out, our deadline for the acceptance fee refund, the partial refund. So if so, you pay 425, you get back I think like 365. So the deadline for that is May 1st. So you can withdraw your acceptance up to that date and get most of your money back. So that's something to consider too. If you want to, um, you know, solidify the housing contract, you do have some wiggle room there. Okay, we're gonna go in order. So tuition costs. So you'll get an estimated cost of attendance on your financial aid package, which should be generated again early next month. The actual amount that you owe isn't going to be due until closer to when school starts. So you can kind of get a rough estimate on how much you owe before then, but like your bill isn't going to come until sometime in, I think, July. So that's when you'll know like concrete. One of the reasons why it takes us a little while is our tuition is voted upon on by our Iowa Board of Regents, and they usually don't meet to to finalize that until the summer. So we don't know at this point what 25, 26 tuition will be. We have, it's going to be a little bit more than it is this year. But your financial aid package will at least like break down the cost of attendance for you. Uh, would we get an email about how to get into Workday? Yeah, absolutely. You'll get an email. You'll be able to access it on your sign-in page. So at the very top of the home page on the right-hand side, you can click sign-ins and then sign into that, and there will be a Workday tile. You won't actually be um, you may not have access to that until we get a little bit closer, but you will have access to that, and you'll have plenty of opportunities to get in there. Yeah, and Mac, same with your question. So we're there's a term called matriculate. So we're matriculating students. A lot. I think the process is kind of ongoing, but as soon as you get matriculated, which you have to have your net ID in order to be matriculated, so that process should happen relatively soon, and at that point, you should have access to SciHire and Workday. Is there a deadline for when you need to take the ALEKS exam? Yeah, so you'll need to take the ALEKS assessment. They say 5 days before you come for orientation so that your advisor will have that information before you talk to them. Because the advisor will use your ALEKS placement score to place you in a math course. So if they don't have that, then they won't be able to place you in a math class. Or students who have an associate. I would actually recommend, regardless of when you, so this question is for students who have an associate's at the end of the semester, would you recommend submitting the application after their graduation? I would actually recommend doing it now. If you are not admissible, we won't deny you at this point. We'll just leave your application open until we get that transcript or an updated transcript that shows you're admissible. And then with like when it comes to your associate's degree, like the fact that you got that, it won't really it'll matter in certain majors, but it doesn't matter as much on your application other than the GPA requirement difference. So I would uh, apply now if you haven't already. Yep. So yeah, so the transfer merit awards will be adjusted if we see that your GPA is higher or lower than what we originally saw. FAFSA is not required. So you can choose to do FAFSA. FAFSA is if you want to receive any um, need-based federal aid. So it's not required. Sometimes scholarships will require it. I say that, I think that's right. But it's not, it certainly isn't required for admission. Um, we will get the 425. You won't get the 425 back. You get 365 of it back if you, or I think it's 375 if you don't submit university housing. If you submit a contract, you get 365 of it back. It is on our website though, so you can fact check me on that one. Um, I just noticed my financial aid package is everything it says is offered for me 100% correct, or is it just um your financial aid package? I didn't know that you had I didn't know we had financial aid packages released yet. I think those aren't coming until later. So anything you see on there, I imagine that it's probably going to be like preliminary numbers. So you won't until we'll send an email letting you know that we have your financial aid package generated, and then you'll also get it in the mail. So those numbers, I mean, if you're, I mean, as long as you don't change anything or your GPA changes or anything like that, then those numbers will be correct. But at this point, I haven't heard that that the full financial aid packages for transfer students have been released yet. So I would wait until early next month. If you change, so you can change your entry term. The question was, I may be wanting to change my entry term to the following spring. You can 100% do that. You can change your application up to a year before you have to reapply. So you can, if you did it for fall 2025, you can go all the way up to fall 2026. We'll just ask you what you'll be doing from, you know, now until you come in the spring. So there's a general one app scholarship, and then so sometimes you'll have supplemental questions on one app. So if you're confused about that, I would go back in the one app, make sure the one app full application is in, and then also that like if you have any supplemental questions to answer, that you filled those out too. It kind of depends on the student, so not every student will have the same. I don't know if very many students will have the same. I think they're all different. So everyone will have a different uh, scholarship opportunities, and so you may just not have any of those in particular right now. If you Once you're a student here, I will say that there's other opportunities. So there's the general one app, and then there's supplemental questions as well. Oh, okay. So I would refer to your orientation. So the email, if it said April 7th, then that will probably be it. So I think the initial, we were hoping for March 31st, but it could very well be that it's moved to April 7th. So I would just keep an eye on your email. We've been told either late this month or early next month. So generally speaking, when you want to, so the question is if you want to talk about like how your credits will be applied to your major, the best thing to do would be to to contact the college that you're interested. So like the IB College of Business. The reason being is that the Office of Admissions, we can tell you how your credits will transfer to Iowa State, but we can't necessarily tell you how your credits will be applied to your major. So if you have questions about that, you can contact, yeah, I would recommend contacting the IB College of Business for that. The outside scholarships, it kind of depends. We have some on our website of some just like I wouldn't even call them suggested. I would just say like here are some scholarships, but so you can look at those. I will say just be careful with outside scholarships to make sure they're legit. But it's kind of all those have different requirements, so I would just recommend doing your research and making sure they're legitimate. Do you have to qualify for financial aid to be eligible to work on campus? Work study, yes. So there's through FAFSA, it is that's how you become eligible to do work study, but you don't have to. So to work on campus, not you don't have to do work study. So it kind of work study is only offered for people who are eligible for that. If you are not eligible for that, you can still work on campus. It's not going to affect. It won't really affect you. I think if you talk to two students, one student is doing work study and one student isn't, like if you ask them like what their day-to-day work is like, it's going to be the exact same. So it's more about funding wise, like where that money's coming from. But for students, yeah, it doesn't really matter. So no, you don't have to be eligible. You just have to apply. So, and we have a ton of different jobs on campus. So there's some that are work study eligible, and then there's some that are not work study eligible. So, it's always important to note that some jobs we have the dining center is a pretty popular spot for students to work. We have the university bookstore. We have different offices on campus. There's a ton of people who are working on campus. We also have people within our Office of Admissions. We have people who are tour guides or cyclone aides that are interested in helping help prospective students. If you want to do, yeah, so if you want to do, sorry, I missed one, but yeah, if you want to do work study, you do have to be eligible for that as verified by FAFSA. And then so yeah, so there may be a couple, so there may be some financial aid or some financial aid opportunities that are filtering into your financial aid award. So those may be updated, especially for those transfer merit awards. I'm assuming that I mean, we look at your transcript, so we have a good idea about what your scholarships will be like for at least for those pretty early on, and then some of the other scholarships may be being decided upon like right now. But I think the the actual official financial aid isn't going to be until a little bit earlier next month. So again, you'll get emails and you get a letter in the mail. But those ones, I mean, those if you have those, then yeah, those are going to be you'll be eligible for. I will just say. Um, to be official, I would wait until the letter gets you or the email that says your financial aid package is ready. Yeah, so how it works when you are talking to an advisor is the advisor will go over the class. So the question was when I register for classes with an advisor during orientation, can we request specific class schedules if we have to have a job or something? And the answer to that is yes. When you talk to an advisor, that person will go over the credits that you're bringing in, the credits that you still need to get here at Iowa State to graduate in whatever major that you're interested in, and then we'll kind of determine what classes will be best for you to take your first semester here. So I will say sometimes those classes are only offered at particular times, and in that case, then it may be, you know, kind of a give and take, of what your work schedule will be and what your class schedule will be. But generally speaking, yes, they will work with you. I know a lot of people request not to have 8 a.m. classes because 8 a.m. is tough. But sometimes there's classes that only have an 8 a.m. slot. So, or sometimes people don't want classes on a Friday, So, I think it's one of those things where advisors will do whatever they can, but a lot of that's going to come down to class availability. I will say too that you can go online right now. I don't think the fall semester. So we have class schedules already out for the summer. I don't know if fall is out yet. So you could always look online and see if it's out at this point. But if it isn't, you can at least get an idea about spring and see like when classes, especially if it's like a professor and the professor has 8 a.m.s and you're like, okay, this professor's probably gonna have an 8 a.m. again. So you can at least look at that. But yeah, generally speaking, they'll work with you. Did I miss any, John?
No, you got everything that I've seen.
On here right now? Okay. Okay. Well, we'll wait. We'll give it like another couple beats for if anyone else has any questions. And then as always, if you have any additional questions or like questions that may take a little bit more time for me to answer, feel free. You can always email me or you can also set up a Zoom call.
I've kind of like an odd and like specific question. I don't really know how to word it like the best. The like college I'm attending right now, I'd be doing a summer class, but that summer class, I believe, goes right up to the day, if not the day, that the fall semester that I am coming in for starts.
Mhm.
So would that just be a case where I would have to send you one official transcript and then as soon as I finish that summer, send the other one after that?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. Yeah. So, is that class that you're taking over the summer, could it potentially be like a prerequisite for one that you would take here?
It would, I believe, be a prereq for one here, yeah.
Okay. That would be the only thing I think would be if you haven't, the advisor will need to see that you've completed that in order to sign you up for like that. I think that's how it works, is that they would have to wait for you to sign that up. And so it may be a matter of if you need to take that, whatever that next class is, that fall semester, um, you're going to have to work with your advisor. So that would be the only thing that could potentially come up is if it is a prereq, you may not be able to register right away for that. But I would just say work with your advisor and at least I mean, you're not the only person that has that happen. So they'll help you figure that out.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And then is there a specific advisor for only transfers? No. So how it works is it depends on the major. So sometimes our larger majors, so animal science, for instance, is pretty large here. There is a person who is just for transfer students, and the reason being is that we get a lot of transfer students interested in animal science. I think in part because we have a College of Veterinary Medicine, so we have a lot of students that are interested in that. So we do have someone in particular for that major. Some other majors are smaller and they may just have one advisor for everyone. So it kind of depends on the major. And then some majors, of course, have several different majors or excuse me, several different advisors. So mechanical engineering is our largest major, and that has several different advisors who work with all different kinds of students. And the other thing I will say is that we will have the recording of this, it'll be on YouTube sometime later this week, probably. So if you have, if you want to go back, anything we said, you can always do that. The other thing is, does your school have a trio program? We do. We have a trio program. So yeah, it's in our you apply for trio once you are a student here, but I think generally um, within the first few weeks they'll have applications. But we do have a trio program here. Yeah. If you want to tour campus, the best time to do it, if you're, I mean, as soon as you can, I would say at this point, I would say if you really want to experience like Iowa State as with students here, I would do it during the school year. Summer, there's just not as many people here, so I would probably recommend doing it sometime in the next couple months. We do have a mid-student day coming up 2 weeks from now at the very beginning of April. So that's a good opportunity. It's for students who've been admitted to Iowa State. It's a big event that we have. So that's something to consider if you want to do that. But then otherwise, we have daily visits Monday through Friday throughout the year. If you want to do it kind of depends on what you're interested in. If you want to do, so when taking a tour, would you recommend taking the transfer tour day or the admit student day? It kind of depends on what you want to get out of it. So admitted student day is a bigger event. It is for all like first year students and transfer students. So it's a big event. There's a lot of opportunities to learn about Iowa State. It's also kind of geared more as a celebration because you have been admitted. So that's something to consider. So it's I would generally say it's a bigger event. So if you're wanting to have the opportunity for multiple different sessions and be on campus with hundreds of people, all excited about coming to Iowa State. It's a great time to be here. So for transfer student, it's a little bit smaller. There's maybe 20, 30 people on a transfer student visit day. That's going to be how it works is generally in the morning, there's a presentation, and then typically how it works is there's lunch, a campus to, or lunch, and then you would meet with an academic, someone in your academic department to talk about your major, and then generally like a campus tour. You can tour the residence halls. So it's more personalized. It's more geared towards you. It's a little smaller. It's only so primarily transfer students, so it's geared more towards transfer students. Both sessions or both opportunities will give you a lot of different or a lot of information, a lot of similar information, but it's kind of what experience you think you would prefer. And then when does Destination Iowa State open for registration? That I do not know. I'm assuming that it's going to open probably a little bit later, but I don't know an exact date. It'll be I mean, you'll get emails about it, so that should be coming up. And the other thing I will say about housing, we didn't actually bring this up, but about housing is I think housing works a little different this year. We have a new system. So I think a lot of like the housing selection will take place in May or June. Is that kind of what you understand it, John?
Yes, yep. It's going to be right in that May or June kind of window.
Okay. So that's another thing if you're wondering about when your housing assignment, when you'll know more about that, I would say like May or June. And then how do you sign up for study abroad programs? We have a study abroad office here. It's a kind of for the entire university. And then we also have study abroad. Each different college has their own like study abroad department. And so there's a lot of opportunities to register for study abroad. There's a lot of different opportunities just in general for study abroad. We have, I think, so we have opportunities to each of the different So every continent, including Antarctica. We have study abroad trips. I will say the Antarctica trip, I don't think it happens every year. I think it's like every couple or every few years. It's also pretty expensive, but there is an opportunity if you want to go to Antarctica. Some of the more common ones I would say are like to Europe, maybe like South and Central America are pretty popular too. And then, there's all sorts of different kinds. So anywhere in the world that you could be interested in going, there's a study abroad opportunity. Australia is one. When requesting accommodations either for housing. So the best time to request accommodations for housing or academic would be as soon as you can. I keep saying that, but it's really as soon as you can. The more time that you allow for the different offices to kind of uh, be in the know or to be able to help you, the better. So we have a office of student accessibility. So there's a office on our campus for students with who have like any sort of need for accommodations, and that you generally how it works is you have to fill out like a request and then they'll work with you. And so it's really honestly based on every accommodation is different. I get the question of like, well, what kind of accommodations will they offer me? And it's so tailored to each individual student that it's really hard for me to know what kind of accommodations they can provide for you. But if you go to Student Accessibility Services, if you type that into our website, um, that's the office that you would want to talk to. But in terms of like some of the things that we do, like you had mentioned housing, so we do different housing accommodations, whether or not it's you want to be on the first floor, you want to, all sorts of things. And then for more on the academic side, we have like a testing center that is geared for people who don't want like distractions, so like a distraction-free testing center. Of course, there's like other things for people who have vision or hearing needs. So a lot of different ways that we can help students. We stretched this out to almost an hour, so
Perfect.
we got it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Jay.
Yes, thank you very much.
Right. Well, perfect. Well, enjoy the rest of your night. I don't even know if there's any. I stopped caring about the NCAA tournament when Iowa State dropped out. So, if you're watching basketball or, doing anything with March Madness, then enjoy your night. If not, if you're like me and you're like, no, I'm not going to watch basketball until next year, have a good night elsewise. And then, yeah, let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Yeah, I got one more question.
Yeah.
Um, is there, so when filling out for job applications, is there any like specific deadline or does it vary within the the job that you're interested in?
It's going to be dependent upon the job, I would say. So,
Okay,
yeah, so it's
yeah.
all going to be dependent upon the job. If you are interested in like one particular job, you can always reach out to usually I guess I don't know how it works on Sci-Hire, but there's usually like a contact on like the posting. And so maybe you can reach out to that person. But generally speaking, I mean, I want to say like just from personal experience, I applied in the summer for a fall job. So sometimes people will wait until they get here in the fall to apply. So there's just, and I think like the dining centers are always hiring. So like I think there's a lot of different deadlines.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan.
You guys have a good rest of your night.
Yeah, you too.
Awesome.
Bye.
Once again, thanks, everybody.